Hi, good evening. Welcome. I'm Lianne Dixon of Getting Real Life Coaching, and I am happy that you're here to discover a new way forward with your teen. If you aren't already aware, I am on a mission to help parents who are tired of arguing with their teens. I want to help you transform your relationship, enjoy easy conversations, and honestly just have more fun. So I want to begin by thanking the Nantucket Athenaeum and Janet. Thank you for inviting me to your community and for sharing this with your community members. And I also want to thank you for taking the time to be here. Um, Now I know that so many of us since COVID, especially since COVID, are emotionally and we're mentally overwhelmed. There's so much going on in the world right now. We and within ourselves, really, that we're all feeling a little maxed, and maybe we're at our wits' end with our teens. And when we're in that space, it can be really easy to just be really uncertain about how to move from that space of arguing and constant frustration or even alienation to a place of connection and meaningful communication. So, if you're in the struggle, I want you to hear that you are not alone and that tonight's presentation is going to offer you some really meaningful suggestions to help shift that dynamic in your relationship to one that just has more breathing space, more connection, and more joy. Okay, so I want to put in the chat actually. Hang on a second, where's my chat? I want to put a worksheet if I can. I'm going to find it for you. A worksheet for you to follow along with. And I'm pretty sure I can just drop it in here. There it is. Okay, great. So you've got that. And I will get my screen back in order. I just want to make sure you had that to follow along with. Okay. And now that we've got that all sorted out, I will go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. All right, and we do have a lot to cover in the course of the next 45-ish minutes. So if you want to just hold on to your questions, if you don't mind, we can talk in the end. I'll have time in the end to do that. Hi, nice to see you. Okay, great. So you can see my screen? We're good? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's an overview of the presentation. We're going to talk very briefly about me and why I do this. And then we're going to talk about using visualization to create the relationship that you want. And I'm going to take you back to basics. And specifically, we're going to look at mindful practices that really help to anchor change, like leveling up our greeting and adjusting our focus. And then we're going to look at creative solutions and a brief action plans. Okay. So experience has taught me that when there's a constant source of frustration or conflict inside a relationship, it's really unlikely that anybody feels respected, that anybody feels heard or valued. And everyone is likely spending a lot of time being triggered and reacting, right? So you're getting by, but nobody's really thriving when there's that kind of push and pull and conflict all the time. And I know this because I grew up in a home where arguing and yelling were very much the norm. And it was exhausting and it had an impact on everyone's mental wellness. So looking back with compassion on those years, I can more clearly see the pain and the disconnection that everyone was feeling and struggling with. So now I know that it doesn't have to be that way. And I really commend you for being here. So I'm not a mind reader, but I suspect in the very least that if you're here and you're watching this, then it's likely because one, you may be curious, right? And you want to know more about maintaining, maybe you've got it going on and you've got peace and connection and you want to know how to keep riding that wave. Great, I'm glad you're here. Others are here because, man, you've been in the thick of it and you're tired and you really need to course correct and you need to find a way to pivot. And I'm here to support you with that too. Okay, so I really want you to hear that no matter what's going on with your family right now, you're not broken and neither is your teen. Okay, so there are compassionate and effective ways to move out of the struggle into an energy of respect and even collaboration, where you can actually enjoy each other's company and have easier conversations. And also, in case you need to hear this, it's not unusual for a parent's self-confidence to be impacted by the constant wear and tear from a stressful situation. So, and I have seen in my experiences that parents who are supported while learning and leaning into new strategies enjoy a welcome boost to their self confidence, because small wins add up quickly and they provide you with hope and renewed confidence in your ability to navigate the teenage years. And that's just another reason to celebrate that you're here, watching this video, and that you're here tonight. So thank you. Now, before we get started, let me briefly share a bit about my background and what motivates me to be a parent coach. I'm a certified family coach, and I have a bachelor's in social work. And while in social work, I facilitated numerous parenting groups and groups for first-time offenders. I was also a crisis worker, and I worked with transient and homeless men. I worked with those who were labeled hard to house, hard to handle. And I was a parole officer inside a medium security institution for men. And I also worked with gang members while I was working in prison. And I have to tell you that the work I did with these men really, truly influences how I come to show up as a parent and as a parent coach. And it was never, ever lost on me that if they had had only one person, just one, who believed in them, who had really seen them, heard them, and helped them really tap into their superpowers, those qualities that make them unique, that the trajectory of their lives could have been forever altered. And one experience in particular helped me integrate that understanding on a visceral level. So I'm going to tell you about it right now. I was in my office when an inmate comes in, and he's really excited, and he's like, "Lianne, look what I got. Look what I got." And he had just come back. He must have come back from a program, and he's holding this poster, and I'm looking at it, and it's got flowers and maybe a poem on it. And he's like, "Have you seen this? Do you know what this is? Have you seen this before?" I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think I have. And so he starts reading the poem because he just can't help himself. And he's reading it to me. And as he's reading me this poem, there are these crocodile tears coming down his cheeks. So here's the poem. It was written by Dorothy Law Nolt. If a child lives with criticism, he learns to condemn. If a child lives with hostility, he learns to fight. If a child lives with ridicule, he learns to be shy. If a child lives with shame, he learns to feel guilty. And if a child lives with tolerance, he learns to be patient. If a child lives with encouragement, he learns confidence. And if a child lives with praise, he learns to appreciate. If a child lives with fairness, he learns justice. And if a child lives with security, he learns to have faith. If a child lives with approval, he learns to like himself. And if a child lives with acceptance and friendship, he learns to find love in a world. So I will admit that my memory of what happens next is a little fuzzy, because it's not every day that a 50-something-year-old gang member, right, who has had little regard for other people's lives or possessions up until that moment, storms into your office with his heart ripped wide open by simple truths. And I know that a part of him was transformed that day. And a part of me could never look at the responsibility of parenting as being anything less than awesome and even sacred work from that moment forward, right? How we show up, man, that really matters. So I do remember this. I went out and I found that poem. It was big enough. I hung it on my wall long before I had my son, and I left it hanging in his playroom long after he stopped using it as a playroom. So that's how big a moment that was for me, and in my trajectory as a parent and as a woman to be a parent, becoming a parent. And here's something I would invite us to hold on to as we move into the content for tonight's presentation. The truth is, it's impossible to know everything. And we don't know what we don't know, and we don't know what we haven't experienced. And this is true even of simple truths. So you might have a lot going on in your relationship with your teen right now, but just for tonight, I invite you to release all self judgment and criticism. Okay. I'm sure you've done enough of that, right? We're all riding the mom vibe. I know you've done enough of that. So just for tonight, you can put it on the shelf. And I invite you to lean into this presentation with curiosity and just a vision of possibility. Okay. So the first thing we're going to look at is visualizing what we want. And this is the first thing I help my clients get clarity around. So do you know what your vision for relationship is and for communication with your teen? What is that? Really think about your goal. It's important because first, it always helps to know where we're going, right? Not much ever gets accomplished when we're wandering aimlessly about. And in fact, when we're wandering without a plan, it's incredibly easy to get stuck repeating a pattern of unhelpful habits that keep us in the struggle and that bring us further away from what we really want. And second, when you have a specific goal in mind, it provides you with the basis against which to measure whether or not what you're trying is working. So if it's working, great, do more of that. If it's not working, try something else, but at least you know where you want to go. All right. So I want you to take a moment to think about your relationship. What does it look like when you aren't in the struggle? So, what are you and your teen doing if you're not arguing, or if they're not ignoring you, or if they're not giving you attitude, right? What are you doing in the absence of that? How are you feeling that space? And how is this new way of being together impacting your stress or the level of happiness that you enjoy? So, go ahead and write that down. Okay, so we're going to follow this up with a visualization exercise. So if you're comfortable closing your eyes, that's great. I would invite you to do that. If not, maybe just keep a soft focus on an area while you take a moment to just breathe deeply. And I want you to envision your goal. And if your first feeling or thought is that it's impossible, that's okay. Maybe just wrap that thought in a bubble and set it on a shelf in your mind's eye, and you can get back to it later if you need to. But for now, it's possible. And as you're envisioning this, notice what it feels like in your body. You feel the tension drop from your shoulders. Does your jaw relax? Are you sleeping better at night? Can you imagine yourself laughing more and smiling more? Really sink into that feeling and notice how much lighter you feel. And I want you to claim that vision for yourself because what you're envisioning right now, that's a worthy, worthy goal. Now take another breath or two and come back to me. And as we're developing awareness around your goal, let's take a moment just to note on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is this goal to you? Really notice what this goal means to you. All right. And I invite you to move forward with curiosity and just a willingness to try new things that can help bring you closer to your vision. Okay. Let's do this. We're going to go back to the basics and we're going to level up your greeting. Okay. Fun. So let me ask you this. What would happen if we began to greet our teens and kids like they're old friends that we haven't seen in years? So think about this. What does it feel like to run into somebody you like, not somebody you don't like, but somebody you like after you haven't seen them in a really long time? What are those moments like? Right? You're hugging. I'm French. There's kisses on the cheek. That's how I roll. There's big excitement, right? But how do you do it? How does that show up for you? What does it feel like inside when you're that happy to not only see someone but be seen by them, right? Because it's not just you seeing, it's you being seen. It's not just you greeting, it's you being greeted. And notice in those moments how nobody's holding back. Nobody's holding back on the joy that they feel. And it feels good and it sticks with us, right? Everybody's happy to be seen and to be welcomed. So when we talk about leveling up our greeting, I'm inviting you to just keep the energy of that experience in the back of your mind when you come together with your team, right? So when you're in the pickup line at school, or you're waiting for them outside a friend's house, or meeting them at home after work, then just allow yourself the gift of feeling that joyful anticipation for the reunion. So if you're coming together while you're in the car, they're coming towards you, you meet their gaze and you flash them your best smile. Before they even get in the car, eye contact and smile, right? Let them know from the expression on your face that you're just so happy to see them and there's nowhere else you'd rather be, right? So when she opens the door of the car, or you come into the house and you see each other, your first words are always, "Hi, it's good to see you. It's good to see you." So the first time you do this, your teen might think you're weird, but that's okay, because I can guarantee your teen has already thought you're weird a lot, and everybody survives. So this is a good kind of thing to get used to, do it on a level that works for you, that's authentic for you, and it's authentic for your family. It's what's coming through you is just that really authentic feeling of, I'm so lucky. It's good to see you. Really feel that. Okay. Once you do that, then you can say, "Hey, tell me about your day." Right. And maybe depending on where you are in your relationship, maybe they'll share with you about their day, but maybe they're not ready yet. And that's okay. Either way, you're just going to keep at it. Okay. So let me tell you about a mom who was not at all impressed with this suggestion. Not at all. She looked at me dead serious and said, "Lianne, it's not going to work. Nobody talks like that." And she's right. Hardly anyone talks like that, because hardly anyone holds the energy of a warm and joyful welcome for their family members. And look at the world of hurt we live in. So how many of us, especially inside our own families, how many of us feel seen? How many of us feel heard or appreciated on a daily basis, or even weekly or monthly, right? So my question is, so what? So what happens if we do begin to bring that energy of a warm welcome into our space? Is there any, any possibility of it causing harm, right? Or does it allow the possibility for something new, for something different to show up in your relationship? So this client was so put off by my suggestion that I had no idea if she was going to try it. So imagine my surprise. It's the next week. We come together and she starts with, I tried what you said. And it was weird and it was hard, but it works. And I can tell you those were not the words I was expecting from her after her initial reaction to the idea, right? And I admit that it can be awkward to try something new. But I think that what's even more challenging is coming up and facing those sabotaging voices, in our mind that say, "Don't bother. It's too simple. It's too hard. It's too late. He's too stubborn. She's never going to go for it, right? All of this chatter, all of this self-sabotaging stuff. I think that's the hardest thing to get over. I had another mom, excuse me, I have olive spring stuck in my throat. I'm going to take a lozenge and we'll keep going. I had another mom share with me that she thought that what I was suggesting for her was too simple, and that her problems needed more complicated solutions, right? So she was really surprised by the results that she obtained. So rarely, for her, it was like rarely a day would go by in that house without her teen slamming a door. But after working together and implementing even simple strategies, right, over the course of the few weeks, that mother finally experienced peace in her house. No more slamming doors. Huge. Okay, and easy conversations were normal. So I don't know what your definition of too simple or too hard is, but I do know that you won't change anything if you don't lean in with curiosity to try something new. So acknowledge the voices and then say, okay, but let's try it anyway, right? Let's try it anyway. So the mother who shared that it was weird and hard to level up her greeting, she shared with me that she tried it with her son, and she's picking him up from a friend's house. And the two of them hadn't had a conversation, like not a real conversation, in a very long time. She had been, reduced, like so many moms and dads out there, just reduced to, I need a ride, right? She was the chauffeur and she was the ATM, and that was pretty much it. And a lot of us are in this lane. We understand that really well. So she said, first I flashed him a great big smile. We made eye contact before he got into the car. And then she said, he got in a car and I said, hi, it's so good to see you. And she said, Lianne, what I noticed then was that he softened. I noticed his body soften. And he actually shared 2 or 3 sentences about his day. At that point in time, 2 or 3 sentences was the most she had got from him in months. Right? It was a huge, huge moment. So did all of their problems disappear? No. But a new seed of possibility was planted, and bigger changes started taking root for them after a few more weeks of working together. So eventually the conversations did get easier, and her son started to open up and share his life and express appreciation for her. Holy smokes, right? But this moment in the car where she made the choice to try leveling up her greeting, even though her head was saying this isn't going to work, she made the choice to try it. That's the moment where it all started for them. So I'm going to be very real with you right now and share that there are absolutely no quick fixes, no tricks, no hacks to save or heal your relationship. You need to be really, really clear in your commitment to achieving your goal. So what's required is a sincere intention to move forward, practicing and maintaining new ways of showing up. So you don't level up your greeting once, you do it always, right? I do it always. I'm going to do it till I die. It works, and it feels good, and it's a habit. So you just keep doing it. You do it imperfectly, and that's okay. You just keep doing it, right? So I maintain that even the smallest shift in our approach can create breathing space. And it's inside that space that the possibility of something new can emerge. Okay. So now we're going to talk about noticing where we place our attention, because where we place our attention matters. And this point hit me straight in the forehead while I was in the final stages of releasing a family home after my divorce. So here's something about me you should probably know. I have a habit of being very task focused, which means I'm demanding of myself, and I can be pretty demanding of others too. So in a lot of ways, it's for those of you who are in my lane and who get this, it's a great quality to have, because we're the people who get things done, right? We know how to get things done. So it's great for that, but it's not at all the kind of habit that feeds or nourishes quality relationships. So, in my defense, because we all have a defense for how we show up, right? It is overwhelming to prepare a house on a good day, right? But the stress that that's involved in that moves into another dimension when you're moving through separation or divorce or any other major life event. And that's where we were. So while my ego wishes that things had been different and that I totally held it together because I'm a parent coach and I know things, you know, the truth is that everything, that entire process consumed me. So obviously everyone in a family moves through big feelings during this time. And I knew it was rattling my 14-year-old's foundation too. So I made sure he had support. But on a very flip side of that, there was this mountain of work that I needed to get done and a looming deadline. So making sure that I connected with him on a daily basis fell right off my radar. So after a few weeks of painting and home clearing and organizing, he starts to get short with me. He's avoiding me. He doesn't really want to talk. He does not want to be in the same room, right? And my mind starts creating this narrative, right? Because he's blaming me and he's hating me for bringing this magnitude of change and this chaos and this uncertainty into his life. And I felt awful and I hated it, but I had all this stuff to do and I had a deadline. So on and on we went in this pattern for probably about 2 or 3 weeks. And our triggers kept us reacting to each other and we were repeating the same unhelpful patterns. So here's what our hamster wheel, looked like. My need to prioritize only the tasks in front of me triggered my son's anger, which led to outburst and avoidance. And all of that triggered my fears of being a terrible mom, thinking for sure he was going to write a bestseller about it like later on in life. And which just led to more feelings of overwhelm, which made me want to compartmentalize things and focus even more on my tasks, which only continued to feed his anger and resentment. It was awful. So everything that was happening was contributing to more and more distance between us. So finally, one night, I attempted to give him a hug as I sat next to him on the couch. And this time, he was like, no. And his reaction was so strong that I finally had to pay attention to him because in that moment, I could actually feel the pain between us. So, really sincerely, I asked him, I'm like, tell me, what is it? What's going on for you? And he looks at me and he says, the only time you ever talk to me anymore is to tell me to do something. What? All right. I stayed quiet while I searched my mind. I was thinking about our interactions, and part of me wanted to disagree and find any shred of evidence to prove him wrong, right? But thankfully, the wiser part of me prevailed, and I stayed silent because silence is our friend. Really important lesson. And going back, I really thinking about it, I'm not proud to report that he was right. And I realized that whenever he was anywhere near me, I began to run through lists of things that I wanted him to do or wanted to help with. Can you get this? Can you hold that? Can you put this away? Did you remember to do that? Can you check the dog? I thought I asked you to walk him, 3 hours ago. Why is the trash still here? I lost this. Can you help me find it? Here, hold the paintbrush while I move the ladder. On and on. Right? Now, you and I are adults, and I know we've all moved, and I know we all have responsibilities. And we've all been through these major transitions. So I'm guessing you've probably found yourself in a similar situation. So do you recognize yourself a little bit in this story? And I think that we can all agree that there are times when we absolutely need to get things done. It just can't be helped. But here's where the rationalization falls apart for me. And it's become a very important question for me to ask. Is it really necessary for me to be in task mode all of the time? And the answer to that is no, of course not. So if I had prioritized presence and connection ahead of overwhelm and distraction, then I would have more responsibly managed that part of me that's really good at getting things done. And I would have stayed connected with my son. So while I'm grateful for my taskmaster quality, I'll share that it has zero business taking the wheel and running all areas of my life. And it especially has no business being on call 24/7 in any of my relationships. So, and honestly, I have to work really hard to keep that habit in check. So can you relate to this at all? Maybe you're not a taskmaster, right? Your struggle may be distraction. You may be exhausted from a challenging work environment or something else. So whatever it is, I invite you to look at it without judgment, because this isn't about the wrongness or badness of you or the wrongness or badness of me. We're all very, very human here, right? So cut yourself some slack and just see it and acknowledge it. And when you do that, if you can see it and acknowledge it, then you can begin to shift your focus back to presence and connection. But you have to see it first, right? So now going back to that night with my son, I chose to sit back and listen from his perspective about how things have been playing out. And he shared with me that he understood that things needed doing, but he was angry that we hadn't actually connected in weeks. And you know what? I was so relieved, right? Because finally I knew what he was thinking. And I was thrilled that he didn't hate me because I was so worried that that was it. It was a huge relief. So I'm willing to bet that as much as you may be butting heads and arguing with your teen, or maybe they're avoiding you, that your teen doesn't hate you either. They don't. My son was angry and pushing me away because I had stopped connecting. And our teens desperately want to connect. And more often than not, what's happening between us is that they're reacting to the dynamics that have been set up over time. And that gives me so much hope, because we can always choose to create a different dynamic. We can always choose to learn something new. And the truth is, when we're arguing with someone, it's rarely is it about what we think it's about. So frequently underneath the anger, there's a part of us that doesn't feel heard. There's a part of us that doesn't feel respected. And that's the part that's lashing out. So here's something to think about and see if it rings true for you. If we're not actively creating space for connection, then we're creating space for separation. And separation brings with it all kinds of baggage, like anger, misunderstanding, and frustration. So in my mind, I imagine it a lot like this. Excuse me. So separation will literally invite anger to just come in. Hey, anger, good to see you. I've got so much room for you here. Come on, have a seat, put your feet up, get comfortable. It'll only be a little while now, and you will have your moment to shine. Just get comfortable, right? So that anger energy, the energy that's just brewing, and it's just waiting for the perfect excuse to start an argument. And sometimes the perfect excuse to start an argument comes from a simple question like, hey, what do you want for dinner? What do you care what I want for dinner? You never do what I want to do anyway. And then it's like, and everybody's been triggered. And it's just, it all started with a simple question, and it doesn't have anything to do about dinner. No, it has nothing to do about dinner. So it's critical to ask, what am I paying attention to? And how am I choosing to connect? Right? Where is my focus when we're together? So really take time to develop insight into that. So I suggest developing a habit of reflecting back on your day, maybe even journaling about what you notice. See what you're noticing, and then see how you can pivot. See how you can bring it back to connection first. So let's talk about that. Because we need to prioritize time to consciously connect with our teens, even if it's for 10, 20 minutes a day. It doesn't take much, but during that 10 minutes, we need to consciously commit to being completely present to them. And if you can commit to being completely present for just a small portion of your day, your relationship will begin to shift. So here's what happens when you create time to meaningfully connect. First, your teen begins to develop a conscious awareness of how you are now choosing to value him and the time that you spend together. And as you develop this new pattern between you, both of you begin to see that it's not just about the things your teen is doing or not doing, it's them. It's just them that you're interested in, right? And when everybody starts to really understand that, and they have space between them, there's breathing space between them, that's the kind of connection that begins to upset the pattern of arguing. So for those days when you're genuinely squeezed for time, make sure you don't skip leveling up your greeting, right? Take time for a really good greeting. Make sure your teen feels seen and heard and valued, even if it's just for a moment, because I know there are nights where we have to be off to the races. Some days are just like that. But really, nail that greeting. Okay, so I know that you're probably curious about the status of chores and the homework situation. But on afternoons or nights where it's possible, practice setting aside any expectation around chores or homework for the first 10 to 20 minutes that you're actively connecting. Okay, so those first minutes, if you can make them together, if you can make it about connection, you'd be saving yourself a whole lot of trouble later, right? So for that 10 to 20 minutes, you sit next to them with a cup of tea, you enjoy a program they're watching, you invite them for a walk, or to share a snack, right? Use whatever activity or language that works for you. Just let them know that being in their company for the next 10 to 20 minutes is your greatest joy and it's your only priority. Put away the phone and just chill. You can get to the list later, the chores later. Connection has to take priority as often as possible in order to build a peaceful relationship. So once you've connected and you take time, and afterwards it's, you've had 10 or 20 minutes, whatever time you could give it, and it's time to get things done, then you have a transitional statement. Like, then you could say, hey, thanks so much. I enjoyed this. It was nice just to hang. Even if the two of you didn't even talk, it was just nice to hang here with you on a couch, but I think we need to get to the stuff we need to get done. So, can you bring me up to date with the homework situation, or where's the dishwasher at? Right? Nice and easy. You're breezy. It's all good. Right? And under no circumstance should time spent together be tied to a reward for getting chores or anything else done. Right? So I want to be very clear that time with you is never something your children or your teens need to earn or negotiate. Okay, so if that's a pattern you've already developed, just stopping that will improve your relationship dramatically. Now, there are things that I've suggested that might be causing you some distress, or maybe some resistance is coming up. So if you're in that space right now and your inner voice is saying, I can't do that, or that's too hard, or it's impossible, or I don't have 10 minutes a day, right? Because we are busy living busy lives, then just everybody breathe. We're all okay. And I would suggest just reframing those thoughts. And instead of saying, I can't, or it's impossible, find a question that's really helpful to me in opening up the space. It's just asking, I wonder what is possible, right? I wonder what's possible. And if you can ask that question, it lightens things up and it opens a window to see what else it opens the window of curiosity. So here's a few creative suggestions, and let's see if they inspire anything in you. Let's see if I can get through them without losing my voice. How about that? Dog walking. All right, I know a lot of us like to make dog walking a chore, and it's a great chore because our kids can do it while we're busy doing something else. However, if you're willing, It's a huge opportunity for connection, right? So while walking the dog, you don't, you ask them to walk the dog and you're like, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to join you. I'm just going to join you. So you go out there and you don't ask any questions and you don't run through lists and you're not going to lecture. You're just going to breathe and smile. You may comment on the weather, say something nice about the neighbor's yard, right? Or something about the dog. Keep your conversation light and breezy. Light and breezy. The most important thing here is to just breathe deeply and let a smile of appreciation fill the space between you. We don't talk about appreciation nearly as often as we should. It gets big time airplay like in November and December just before the holidays. But man, if you can just feel appreciation in those quiet moments between you and your teen, something changes in that energy. Something shifts. And if you're feeling it and it's sincere, then go ahead and share, oh, I'm so happy just to be here with you. This is nice. Be quiet, right? Let them take the lead. Maybe you'll enjoy a walk in silence, or maybe he'll start talking about school or their friends or crazy ideas they have for inventions or how they dream of being the next YouTube star for whatever ideas they've got going on, right? Just give them your full attention. No lectures, no lists, just be present. And when the walk is over, thanks so much. I really enjoyed spending time with you. This was nice. It was fun. So never miss an opportunity to express appreciation to your teen for the time that you spend together. Say thank you. They can really receive that. So another idea is to invite them to the kitchen, not to help, right? Not to help, but just to hang out. So on those nights where you don't need the help and you want to send an invitation, it's like, hey, you know what? I'm making dinner. Do you want to come and hang out? Maybe you could bring your playlist if you want to, and just whatever. Maybe they'll surprise you and say yes. If they say no, that's okay. But you've opened a space. You've opened a space where they know that they're safe to come and without expectations. It's just about them, right? Or I'm going to watch some mindless TV. I'd love your company. And if they decide to join you, don't reach for the remote right away, right? Let them come and join you, and maybe they'll start talking. Maybe because usually it'll be later at night, right? And that's when our teens want to talk. If it's 10:30 at night or 11, and maybe we have burritos in the oven, maybe we've got there's a possibility for a conversation. But whatever the situation is, let them take the lead. So if they want to, come and just watch TV, they'll pick up the remote and they'll turn on the TV, and you're cool with that. That's fine. If they choose to talk, you're cool with that too. The space is open. It's up to them. Okay. So again, it's not about, if they say no, don't let it hurt your feelings. Depending on where you are, they might say no for a while, but you're going to keep at it. And then as the energy between you starts to shift, then everything else starts to shift too. Okay, so everything that we touched on tonight helps to create the foundation for strong connections that really discourage arguing and promote peaceful communication and connection. So this is really the foundation of the house that you're building, or the root of this, the root system of the tree that you're growing. It's just that important. So recap, be clear about the quality of relationship that you envision between yourself and your teen, and keep your eye on the prize. Celebrate your wins. Notice what works and keep doing that. Notice where your attention is when you're together. Practice greeting them like they're a dear friend every time you see them, like at least once a day after you've been away from each other. I was talking to a dad, and he was saying, I never knew what side of the bed my daughter would wake up on in the morning. Like, was it okay to even look at her, or, so if you have that situation where your teen is unpredictable in the morning, that's probably not the best time, right? To do the, hey, I'm so happy to see you. That'll just irritate them. So maybe wait until later in the day when their mood is settled and they've had something to eat and are not hangry. And then in a quiet moment, you can talk about, hey, you know what? How do I support you in the morning? Right? When it's quiet, after you've had time to connect. Okay. Make time for conscious connection. Make sure you're fully present for 10 to 20 minutes every day. And set aside any expectations for chores or anything else while connecting and practicing. And just practice filling that space between you with gratitude as often as you can. And revisit those steps when things start to feel out of balance. I know I learned to always come back to these relationship basics with my teen, and it's made a huge difference in how we get along. So I want to be clear that moving your relationship from where it is today to what you envision is a process that requires deep commitment and a deep commitment to your goal and a willingness to try new things. And it requires time and patience and practice. And do not expect perfection. It's just not going to happen. You're going to do it wrong and it's going to be ugly some days. And that's okay. You can do it better or different the next day, and you're just going to keep trying, but you got to keep trying every day. Show up and try. And our teens respect it when we show up and try. They see us. They know what we're up to. Right? So there's no way to cover all of the strategies that contribute to better connection and more peaceful conversations inside this short presentation. But everything that you've learned here will help set you up for greater success on your journey forward. So let's take a moment just to think about how you're going to move forward from here. If you go back to the goal that you envision for your relationship with your teen, which suggestions from tonight do you think will help move you out of the struggle and closer to what you want? And that's a question that's on a worksheet. So I go ahead and just, write that down. Take time after this presentation to just really answer those questions for yourself. And journal about them. When's the best time for you to start practicing those suggestions, right? What's motivating you forward, right? How important was that goal to you? Why did you give it that kind of importance? And is achieving your goal something you can do on your own, or could you benefit from additional support? And if you feel that you can benefit from additional support, get clear on what that looks like for you, right? What do you think you need to get you to where you want to go? And no matter what, keep going. Just keep going. I know both you and your team will be so glad you did. So I'm grateful you were here to attend the presentation, and I'd like to offer you a video that I recorded about building respect in your relationship. So this video is actually the second week of my program, and it's jam-packed with some really good information to help you continue to move forward. So if you'd like to receive it, just send me an email at Lianne@gettingrealcoach.com, and I will be very happy to send it to you. And that concludes tonight's presentation. So here we are. I'm going to take some questions. I'm going to remove this. Okay, stop share. There it is. There's so many buttons on my screen. All right, and Janet, I know we're still recording. Did you maybe not want to record the questions so that there's some element of privacy?
Yeah, I'll do that. Thank you.